Okay, so welcome to day 2. Good to see you all back here. Are there any like burning questions or things you got home last night and thought I need to ask about that, or ideas you had or anything? No, nothing. What we're going to do today is focus much more on the business uses of social media. So it's a bit increasing the relevance, really. I mean, a lot of the stuff we've sort of touched on already, but we're going to focus in on it. We're going to look at some of the risks and issues again, which we kind of touched on a little bit yesterday, to do with social media, and then depending on how the time goes, I don't think that will take all of the day. We'll start looking at some of the practical stuff, which we'll then move on to spending more time. Next week, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, we're here again, and my intention was to spend most of that time really on practical stuff of creating Facebook pages, setting up a blog, maybe doing some stuff with Twitter, and setting up a little like YouTube channel, and look at things like getting some photographs and videos. Is one of the reasons why I'm doing this little videos. I mean, you might have noticed yesterday when I was trying to show you how to put the banner on the YouTube, hit some sort of problem. So we'll have a look at ways around that, and just some sort of general stuff about preparing photographs and videos to put them on your site. Now, if there's anything that you particularly want to look at next week, I mean, I've got in mind the sort of things we could do, but if there's particular areas you want to focus on, let me know now or later on today. I'll ask you again probably when we finish. And then, as long as it's not a huge thing that I know absolutely nothing about, then we can spend some time looking at. If there's a particular area you want to focus on, then we can probably do that. But if you let me know, then I've got a little bit of preparation time that I can make sure. Particularly, I was thinking last night, I need to maybe bring in some just general photographs that you can use in that, because if you don't have any content to practice with, then it's difficult to practice, really.
Alan,
Okay.
Do you learn a course on web design?
I personally don't. I'm surprised they don't do web design as part of this as part of this this whole what's it called, European funding training thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll ask Mark. Yeah, Mark would be the right guy to ask.
With being an oldie, this sort of computery thing is
You got way
going
away.
for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, I mean, web design is a big topic, and preparing graphics is also quite a big topic. I mean, I think, and some people would probably disagree with me, the easiest way, if you're not into spending a lot of time on web design and web development, because you could spend a huge amount of time, or alternatively a huge amount of money, is to use the blog method, because it does all the design, and you've just got to really shove the content in. So I find that a really easy way to bash up a sort of website. I mean, that's what, when we looked at that Lily Peebles thing, the makeup thing, that's what that is, really. That is a blog, and it just makes the whole thing a bit easier, because it does most of the hard work for you. But there's still some issues about that, about photographs and the sizes of photographs and how to place them and design and things. So it's not. But I mean, I'll ask Mark about web design, because I would have thought it's something a lot of people would be interested in. I think one of the guys who left yesterday, that was something he thought that this was going to be about.
No, this is fantastic, this one for me, but web design
Would also be yeah. The only thing about it is it can get very technical, web design. Which may not necessarily. It just depends what you want to do, really. I mean, you don't want to be a web designer. You want to bash up a quick website, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, that's what we want.
Yeah.
Because it's like both of us are in a sort of same situation. I was thinking, you are really.
You
We just want somewhere to be able to put on it what we're doing, what we're selling.
Yeah.
And get people to sort of go to it, so that we can, obviously with me, sell products, Libby sell our service.
Well, certainly, I'm intending to spend a fair amount of time next week looking at using the Blogger site
That sounds
And I'm quite, as you probably guessed, I'm quite keen on that. I mean, you can see what you think. I mean, we'll have a go at creating one. And, don't worry too much. We can delete all the stuff that we've created. It's not as if we're going to create something that the world's going to be looking at. We'll just create some simple stuff, and you can play around with it and try it out, and delete it afterwards, and then take the time to create your proper. Because you've got to collect your materials as well to put on your blog or website or whatever. I don't want to make too long a video. Okay, now I thought we'd have a quick look at this Facebook video. It's very corporate, but there are a couple of things that are said in it that are just worth bearing in mind. And of course, it's very American as well. How do I turn it up? Oh, it is turned up. Hang on a minute. I'll start it again. It's as loud as it goes. Oh, it's going. I'll start it again. No, I've got it loud now.
My husband and partner, Paul, grew up on the East Coast, as did our partner Lewis.
It's only a short video. It's only 1 minute 46.
The first year of operation for a restaurant is always the most challenging. You're trying to get the word out. You're trying to reach a whole new community of people and inspire them to want to come to the restaurant and try it. We used Facebook really as a business tool to build the community of diners. My husband and partner, Paul, grew up on the East Coast, as did our partner Lewis, and they really wanted to bring the East Coast style of seafood to the West Coast. When people come to dine at Sam's, we really do look at it as though they're coming into our house. The staff is getting ready at the crack of dawn so that when we open those doors and the customers pour in, we are ready to go. And it's just like a choreographed ballet, I think. We really believe in investing in marketing. With a tool like Facebook, we can specifically target people that love to travel, people that love food and wine. When we have a strong call to action, we get an even better response. It's a very busy restaurant. Unlike a print ad or radio or TV, where we really don't have any idea, with Facebook we can immediately tell how our marketing is performing. When you promote a post, your customer will see it directly in the newsfeed. So it just really becomes part of the stream of information that they see on Facebook. I think digital media in general is exactly bringing together people with like interests, and it's helping to match them together.
Okay, so as I said, a bit corporate, a bit American.
Facebook's.
I mean, when she talks about targeting people who are interested in travel and eating, of course, I think this is really an advert for the Facebook ads. Yeah, and we'll look briefly at that, but I suspect probably you don't want to spend any money, or certainly not a lot of money, on ads. But as we mentioned yesterday, one of the benefits of the Facebook ads is you can focus who gets to see them, because the ads that appear down the right side of your Facebook page are always targeted based on where you live and what your stated interests are. One other thing just to pick out of that advert, which we'll probably talk a little bit more about later on, is she did say about when there's a call to action. Yeah, and that's a useful point that will come up in my list of things to put in your posts and that, is that you don't always do it, but from time to time you ask people to do things. In your post, rather than just telling them something, from time to time you say, like this, go and check that. So you actually tell them to do something. You actually request your friends and that to do something on Facebook, and that's a useful thing to do from time to time in your posts. And I'll give you a lot more hints about the sort of things you should put in your posts on Facebook and what have you. So, I mean, this is really just a repeat of what was sort of partly on the previous page. But particularly, as I also mentioned earlier, this idea of being able to have your customers to ask questions. Yeah, and it's a good way. I should think in all of your businesses, opportunities for people to ask you things on Facebook. I mean, they might not start doing it immediately, but hopefully from time to time. And as you build up your number of friends, people will use Facebook as your like customer support. Well, you're just a one-man band. You don't have a customer support department, so being able to answer the phone all the time is a bit of a pain. So you can use things like Facebook to answer questions. Yeah. So when people want to know, can you do this kind of dog grooming? Can you give this kind of style of guitar lesson? Then you're there to answer it. And it's good to listen to what your customer's saying and get answers back to them. So you should always be, if you're going to use Facebook to promote your business, you need to be checking it regularly, because there's nothing worse than somebody asking a question when it's 3 days later when you get round to seeing a reply. So you need to. There is a bit of, as I mentioned yesterday, there is quite a commitment here in terms of time and being on the ball with your Facebook. I mean, most people check their Facebook anyway quite regularly. It's not a particularly onerous task to check it. You can get Facebook on your mobile, so that